SIG Sauer P365 Cleaning and Maintenance. Is yours properly cleaned and maintained? We are about to find out. Okay, welcome to the video, a long overdue video. I think the number one request that I get is a P365 cleaning, so here it is. We're going to talk all about cleaning and maintenance of our P365. Have you been cleaning and maintaining yours properly? We're about to find out. So in this video, we'll talk about the products that I use, we'll disassemble it, we'll get in there and clean it, and then we'll talk about some maintenance items that the manufacturer recommends be replaced by round count. So let's get started. Before we get started, I'd just like to take a quick second to thank everybody that has liked and subscribed to my channel. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you find these videos helpful. If you have not subscribed, there'll be a subscribe button right down here in the corner. If you could smash that baby, I'd really appreciate it. A couple different reasons. The more subscribers YouTubers have, the more our content gets shared. Right now, 2A is under attack, so we need all the help that we can get. Secondly, whenever I post new content, you get notified right away. Again, thank you everybody that has liked and subscribed to my YouTube channel. I really do appreciate it. So I know this is not your first rodeo. Everybody's cleaned a pistol, and if actually you haven't cleaned a pistol and this is your first time watching a video, maybe preparing to clean a pistol, well, congratulations for purchasing that firearm and supporting the Second Amendment. So this is what I use. This is the way I do it. If what you do is working for you, great. And if there's some tips and tricks that you can pick up in mine and implement in yours, awesome. That's the intent of this video. So I don't use all these products. I use very popular products. The CLP, kind of everybody's using this. The cleaner lubricant and preservatives, kind of a one-stop shop. I personally don't like this stuff. I don't like the way it smells, and it's pretty messy. These are the ones I use. I use my bore cleaner, then the gun cleaner, and then as far as lubrication, primarily I use Tetra grease. I love this stuff, and we'll go over that. And then there's oil. The Q-tips, my best friend, cleaning patches, and then I prefer an old t-shirt cut up for a rag. I mean, they got microfiber and all those stuff, but I'll tell you what, the t-shirts seem to work the best. And we have our cleaning patch, and I use the cable. I have a couple lengths of these cables. I really like the way the cables are opposed to the rods themselves. But anyway, we got our bore brush. We got some dental picks for the hard to reach spots. We got our nylon toothbrush. And again, you don't need all these things, okay? Bore snake. This is for my AR. I don't even have one for 9mm, but I do plan on getting one. These are pretty helpful as well, so we'll go over that. And then the pin removal tool, which I sell on my website, sigguy.com. I was kind of amazed on YouTube. I didn't see one video that had you remove your FCU from your grip module. There's only one pin back here to do it. It takes literally 2 seconds, and you can do that much more thorough of a cleaning. So I was kind of surprised that nobody recommended you remove that. So we're going to do that today. Anyway, so let's get this all cleared off the bench, and we'll start disassembling and cleaning the P365. As you can see, I put down a cleaning mat. That way if I spill anything, it'll absorb it, and then I also ain't worried about scratching up my pistol if I'm sliding it around on my bench here. So first thing, as always, we're going to always make sure that we're working on a safe firearm. And personally, I have a rule that there are never any magazines on my bench, no matter what, unless I'm doing kind of a photo shoot. Never any magazines. That stays in the safe or in my range bag along with my ammo. So we're going to lock our slide to the rear. We're going to physically and visually check to make sure there's no round in the chamber, which there's not. Okay, like we said, there's no magazine installed. Next, we're going to rotate our takedown lever to about the 630 position. And then we can release our slide while holding onto it and remove our slide. So the first thing that I do is I try to get bore cleaner in my barrel as soon as possible. And this is the bore cleaner we're going to be using. That way it has time to soak and it has time to break apart all that carbon and whatever's inside my barrel. So we're going to remove our recoil spring assembly, the RSA. Put that aside. We're going to remove our barrel. And then we're going to use a Q-tip and put as much of this bore cleaner in there as possible. The more the merrier, okay? So we'll get our Q-tip. work it all around the feed ramp here, around the entrance of the chamber there, our loaded chamber indicator. We're just going to soak everything with this bore cleaner. And then we'll get inside the chamber and get down inside the barrel as far as we can. We'll work it from both ends. And once that's all soaking wet with bore cleaner, we're going to set that aside right over here. I'm going to clean the rest of my pistol, and then I'll get to that at the very end. That way it has plenty of time to break up those deposits in the barrel. So the slide is obviously the most involved in cleaning. So we're going to take care of these couple easy things here real quick, just get them out of the way. So my recoil spring assembly, it doesn't get very dirty. Okay, so I just basically wipe that down. I don't lube it up or anything either. The more you lube, the more carbon and dirt has a place to stick to, okay? So again, this cleans very easy. If you're the type of person that cleans your weapon all the time, like after every range visit, I mean, everybody's got their own input on how often you should clean your firearm. I clean mine all the time, so it's very easy to clean when I do clean them. If you wait, a year to clean it after shooting every other weekend or whatever, you're going to be sitting there chiseling and scraping and all kinds of stuff to get all that buildup off of there. So I personally would like to clean it all the time. It takes only 15 minutes to clean it, and then it's in good working condition. So on the YouTube there, I didn't see any videos having you remove the fire control unit from the grip module. Okay, this is kind of where your chamber is when you fire your pistol. All that carbon stuff gets down inside here in your fire control unit and your grip module. So just like the 320, this is the dirtiest part of the whole gun besides the barrel. So it's very easy to remove this fire control unit from your grip module. So you can grab a puncher you want, or I have these on my website like I mentioned, and all you do is just push this one pin out right here. Okay, you can push it out from either direction. There is a spring on this side of the frame that it's like a C-clip type deal thing that captures that pin. The more you have this pin in and out of there, the easier it will be to get out, in the future. The first time getting this out, some of them are stuck in there pretty good, so don't be surprised if you gotta use a little bit more force to get that out of there. So all I did was push my punch in the side hole there, start working the pin out the other side, and just pull that all the way out. So as you can see, there's kind of a ridge on each end. So this can go in either way. And then this C-clip, when we pull this out, I'll show you. So to pull this out, we're just going to lift up on the rear, okay, and then pull it out just like that. And before I forget, right on here, it's that little piece of metal there. It's like a C-clip. It's like a half circle. So when you can see it in the hole right there too. So when you put that pin through there, that clicks in the groove on the pin and it captures it. Okay, so make sure you don't lose this. Sometimes they fall off. I've never had one fall off, but people have lost the pin before because this fell off when they were cleaning it and they didn't realize it and the pin fell out. So basically, there's not much lube on this at all. Like I said, lube attracts all kinds of debris and stuff, and it makes it harder to clean. So I just basically lube up the contact points, and I don't go crazy with lube like some people do. So this is relatively easy to clean. I mean, now I can get to the bottom of it. I can get to the sides, inside and outside. I mean, every single side on this I can get to. When it's sitting inside my grip module, I mean, I can only get to the top, and that's it. So why not pull it out? So we're just going to work our nylon brush. I mean, you can spray this whole thing down if you want, blow it out with compressed air, do whatever you want. You can use the gun cleaner if it's really, really bad. Let that set for a little bit, and then work it with your nylon brush. Mine isn't very dirty, so I'm just going to work my nylon brush all over the place here. Just be careful. You have your trigger bar spring here. You don't want to kind of be brushing that and have that come flying off of there. I do have videos also, so if any of this stuff does fall apart on you, like your takedown lever accidentally falls out or your slide catch falls out, there are videos on my YouTube how to put them back in there. So once we get this all cleaned down, I'll wipe it down just like that. So while we have this out also, you can see we just talked about our trigger bar spring, and then you have a sear spring right in here. And then you have your slide catch spring. It's a little itty bitty spring under there. That's why that's spring loaded. So you can send your pistol into SIG for a full service, full cleaning service, whatever they're calling it. And they recommend between 2,500 and 3,000 rounds. To me, as much as I shoot, that seems a bit excessive. But if you're only shooting a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there, and it's a couple years later, then it makes total sense. Especially being your EDC, you want to make sure it's in the perfect working condition. So when you send it into them, they're going to replace the trigger bar spring, the slide catch spring, the recoil spring, this assembly here, the sear spring, and then they're going to throw the stuff in an ultrasonic cleaner. They're going to clean it. They're going to get it out. They're going to dry it. They're going to thoroughly inspect it. If there's been any revisions, updates to the whole pistol, like the slides with the striker, that whole thing we went through, they'll perform the revisions. And then when you get it back to you, there'll be a piece of paper in there from the gunsmith, whoever worked on your pistol, explaining everything that they did to your pistol. So it usually takes about a week. It's $85 to have them do it, and $55 shipping. You have to pay for round trip shipping. So just wanted to let you know that that is an option that SIG will do for you. Okay. Taking apart this stuff, the sear spring's pretty tricky in this. Pretty much everything else is really easy. I got a trigger video to replace the trigger in your 365, and during that video you can see it all disassembled and how easy it is to change a lot of these springs. So all right, so we have that all cleaned up. Next thing I'm going to do is just take my nylon brush and kind of work my grip module here, especially where all that carbon is, right in the middle usually. Okay, again, this doesn't really get that dirty because I clean it all the time. That, and everybody's got grip modules laying around, so you change them out pretty frequently. So I'm just going to clean down inside the mag well there. Clean inside the muzzle in there. It gets pretty dirty on the end of the muzzle. And that's it. Wipe it down. And then we'll reinstall our fire control unit really quick. So this goes in front first, and then you'll see the notch here for your takedown lever. You're just going to kind of put the takedown lever in there, and then we're just going to rotate it down and click it into place, just like that. And then we'll take our pin. You don't need to lube this up or anything. And put our pin back in there, and I just heard it click. Let's see if we can get you to hear it. You got to make sure, it's very important that that clicks into place, all right? Because you don't want it to back out on you. Hear it click, the little wire. So just basically make sure it's flush on both sides and you'll be all set. Okay. So next we'll move on to cleaning the slide. Some of the stuff in my video you do not have to do. If you feel it's too advanced or involved, then by all means do not take it apart. You can bring it to a gunsmith. You can send it back to SIG like we just talked about. You don't want to take this apart and then run into the problem where you can't get it back together. Okay. So what I recommend is people watch my videos first all the way through, so you can kind of see how things work and how they come apart and how they go back together. And then maybe you'll feel more comfortable as you're doing it. So what I mean by that is we're going to remove the striker in our 365. The channel in there needs to be completely clean, like spotless and dry, okay? When you get these from the manufacturer, there's assembly lube all over them. Sometimes it looks like they dropped it into a bucket. And there's a little hole that the striker comes through right here. So some of that oils from cleaning it over time, some of the assembly lube, it makes its way into the striker cavity there. And then people in the very beginning with the 365, the light strike issues and stuff like that were attributed to stuff in your striker channel. So we're going to take that apart. Now I have a video on my YouTube. There's two different housings. Mine has the old style on this one. All right, so that's the little detent here, we're going to call it. A plunger. It's actually the striker housing. We're just going to pull in on that towards me, and it's going to release my back plate. You can see there's a little bit of a gap in between that and the slide itself. That's that little gap that we're going to pull that into, and that'll release the back plate. The newer style, which is in my other video, it's the same type of setup, but you got to move this piece into the middle where it can go into this cavity here. So we're going to move it to the middle and then pull it towards us, and that'll release the back plate. There was issues with the back plates coming off with people shooting these, and the fix is to redesign how that is captured on there. So very easy to do. Watch my other video if you have the newer style, and that's how your back plate comes off if you want to remove it. Okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little flat tip screwdriver here. I'm going to pull in on that striker housing tab right here, this piece right here. And you'll see my back plate actually kind of pop up a little bit as I pull that in. See that, how it moved a little bit? and I can slide that right off. I'm going to keep my finger over the end here in case it's spring loaded inside there. We don't want it to come flying out. So I'm just going to pull my back plate off. And then you can see my strikers right there already. So a couple things you need to pay attention to. Here's our striker safety right here, which is also spring loaded. Okay, this black piece. And sometimes you have to push that in to get the rest of the striker to go by it. When you do push it in, like I said, it's spring loaded, so don't let it go, because there's a spring underneath this piece, so we don't want to lose this piece or the spring. Okay, so as you can see, I'm pulling it out, and it gets kind of caught up on that striker safety. So all I got to do is just push this in with my finger. See that? Just push it in, striker comes right out. Set that right to the side, and like I said, really slowly let your finger off that. And pay attention to how it's orientated, right? Because that's how it has to go back together. That little nub is facing towards us. So I can pull that right up out of there. You can see our little spring right there. We'll just put that to the side. And we'll get our little spring out of there. Okay? It's that easy. Once you've done this a few times, piece of cake. So now, everything is out of here. I can clean except my extractor, which is a little bit more involved to get out. That involves drifting this pin out, which I'd have to take my RDS off to do that, so I'm not going to do that right now. We can clean underneath that without removing it anyway. Okay, so everything's out of here. So my next step is we'll start putting some cleaning solution on there, and we'll start cleaning up our slide. Okay, so all I'm going to do is basically clean this whole thing down. So I would take some of my cleaning solution here, and I'll just kind of spray things down. I'm not going to get it too carried away because it's not that dirty, and I don't want to get it all over my RDS. So you ain't got to worry about getting it into the striker cavity and all that stuff right now, because we're going to clean that out as well. And then we're going to make sure we get a lot of it right here where the striker comes through, okay, because that's the most dirty spot on this whole slide. That and our extractor. If you look at it from underneath, you can see this little hook right here. That's what actually grabs onto your case when your slide opens up, pulls it out of the chamber, and ejects it from the pistol. Okay, so that gets a lot of carbon underneath there, and we need to make sure that's very clean, because that's very important to get that old case out of there, right? So again, we'll use our nylon brush, and we'll just kind of work this stuff around. And we're going to pay close attention to our slide rails here, right here. This groove all the way down the whole length of the pistol, both sides. That's what it captures on your FCU. That's what it reciprocates on. So we're going to make sure we clean that up really good, because if I use any lube, that's where it goes on the rail here. And then that grease over time builds up, and all kinds of stuff gets stuck to it. So I'm going to scrub all this down here, get it as clean as possible, inside and out. And then we'll wipe it all down with our rag. Just get the majority of it with our rag, and then we'll use Q-tips and patches and stuff like that. So don't forget your nylon. You want to get that breech face really good, and the extractor. Clean it with our rag. And then what I'll do is I'll get in there with a Q-tip, and I'll get all the creases and crevices really good. I want to get all that cleaner out of there as much as possible. You can take a rag and you can stick it through the hole here. And just pull it all the way through, if possible. Both holes where our guide rod is. Get that nice and clean. So if you haven't taken this apart, like the assembly lube, when you first get your pistol, it's recommended to clean it before you go shoot it, because the assembly lube is not the proper lubrication for your pistol. So that's why a lot of people have issues when they first get their 365. They're all excited. They grab a box of ammo. They go out to the range and they shoot it, and they have all kinds of failures. Most times, it's because of the way they're holding the pistol, because it's a real small micro compact, or whatever you want to call it. So they're riding the slide, or, you know, there's all kinds of weak grip, all kinds of issues as far as cycling with the 365. But the other reason is because that assembly lube is all packed everywhere. So it's in the owner's manual. They want you to clean it out as well before you go and shoot it. So it's always the first question when you have all these failures. Did you clean it? No, I haven't cleaned it. I just came from the, the pro shop or whatever. Well, go and clean it and then see what happens. So our striker cavity, I have no problem sticking a bore brush in there, 9mm, twisting it around, moving it around, get it all nice and clean in there. You can spray some cleaner in there, do whatever you want. You can put patches down there afterwards, Q-tips down in there, a rag down in there, whatever fits. You can stick it in there, just as long as that is completely clean before you put your striker back in. Okay, we want it bone dry. So the hole itself, our striker safety hole here, the little hole where the spring sits in. And then you want to make sure that none of your Q-tip is left behind in there either, okay? I cleaned all around here. It's pretty gross and behind the backing plate there, or the back plate. So make sure you clean that area out there. Just push your Q-tip in there and keep twisting it around. See, it's coming out pretty clean. So that's pretty clean. Clean enough for me. So with our striker, you really want to be careful with the strikers on any of these, because sometimes, like the 320, there's a little itty-bitty spring on the outside. We don't want to get carried away with this, okay? I do have a video also on how to disassemble a striker, and they're all pretty much the same. So if it does come apart on you, just check out that video, and you'll be able to get that put back together, okay? So the area on our striker is where the striker actually goes through the hole and contacts our primer. Sometimes you get a lot of carbon right around here. So you can take your bore brush and just kind of gently do this number until it's all nice and clean. And as you can see, this is the new style striker. You can see that bevel they have on the tip now to help pretty much eliminate all the primer drag. The whole chapter we went through with the growing pains of the 320. So that's all nice and clean and everything. If you wanted to take this apart and clean it up even better, I had the rim dry lube out because I have no problems using this on a striker. Anything, you can spray it down, and this stuff like evaporates, so it's nice and dry when it's all done. It kind of leaves like a Teflon slick coating. So if you wanted, that's the only reason why I had this out in the beginning of the video. If you wanted to use it for that purpose, I'd see no problem. I've done it before. I have no problems with it. So now that our striker is all nice and clean, we will reinstall this back into our slide. Kind of get that started just like that. And then we're going to take our striker safety. You can wipe this down. And none of this stuff gets lubed. You do not need to lube this stuff to put it back, okay? And then our spring, we're going to set our spring right on there like that. And then the easiest way that I reinstall this, maybe we wanted the nub, that little nub there facing us, just like that. So I kind of tip it on its side like this, and I slide it into my hole like that, so the spring stays put right on there. This is just like a mag release, pretty much, okay? So I'm just going to slide it in my hole just like that. Just pay attention to your spring, okay, because it doesn't always want to go where it needs to go. Actually, let me pull my striker out, and then we'll slide this in. Just take your time, don't rush it, okay? Because you don't want to lose anything either. if you can't push it all the way in, that means it's not in there correctly. Okay, maybe the spring fell down and it's kind of preventing that striker safety from going all the way in there. Okay, so I'm going to sit there and hold it with my finger, and then we'll put our striker in. Okay, and then once your striker's in there, pretty much contacting it, you ain't got to worry about it coming out. Okay, so that's it, just like that. Make sure it moves freely, which it does. The housing moves freely, which it does. So now we're going to slide our back plate on, and all we got to do is push in on our housing here, okay, and get that most of the way into the slide. That way we can get our back plate started. Just like that. And then you'll hear it click into place when I push it all the way up. Just like that. Now you know it's locked in place properly. It ain't going anywhere. So we are just about finished. We've cleaned our slide. I took a little extra time and made sure I cleaned that all nicely. I still want to clean my RDS. I'm going to use some flat screen, like kind of Windex stuff to clean that. I'll show you that afterwards. Our FCU and our grip module's all clean. Our guide rod and the springs all clean. The last thing we need to do is clean our barrel. This thing's been soaking since we started. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to run my bore brush through there, and depending on how dirty it is, I mean, it might not be that dirty at all. You might not even shot it. You just want to kind of get it out of the safe and get it cleaned up and lubed up, so you don't really need to go through this 100 times. So just keep doing it till it breaks up all that carbon inside your barrel. And then once we're done with that, I will kind of get some cleaner. And we'll just spray the outside a little bit. I'll kind of work our nylon brush around, clean that all up. Every square inch of this we want to get nice and clean. Especially our feed ramp, our loaded chamber indicator notch there. Okay, we want to make sure that's all nice and cleaned up. So once that's all taken care of, I wipe it down real quick. And then what I'll do is I'll run my patches through there and get it all nice and clean. So thing to remember too, if your guns are going to be sitting in the safe and stuff for quite a while, you really don't want to put your hands all over it and then put it in the safe. If you can help it, kind of wipe it down like this using the whole rag, lube it all up, put it back together, and then put it, reassemble your pistol and then put it in the safe. That way you don't get any rust and stuff on there either. The oils and stuff from your fingers or perspiration or whatever. So anyway, that's all nice and clean. Now I'm going to take my patch. I'm going to run it through there. And you can see how dirty it is. So we'll change out our patch a couple times. And then the bore snakes are pretty cool. I use that on my AR. I need to get a 9mm one. I keep saying I'm going to, but this only takes a second, so it's not that it's expensive, but at the range, it can be really helpful just to run it through there real quick if you're at an extended range visit and whatnot. So on your bore snake, it's just basically a long rope. Okay, it's got a weight on one end with a knot in it. Get that knot out. So we'll say the caliber on it right there. So when you drop this into the barrel, and then you pull it through. This is for the AR, that's why it's got a long one on there. So it's got this cottony type area in the beginning here. We can soak that with cleaner, bore cleaner, or whatever you want. So that way when that goes through the barrel first, it's kind of getting it all wet with bore cleaner. And then it's got like this brass bristle section. Again, this isn't for 9mm, so that would be a pretty tight fit going through your barrel. And it's got this long cotton section at the end, which you can even put some oil on this first part. So that way when it goes through, it's starting to clean all that broken up stuff in there from the bristle part. And then it's going to lube it up, and then the remainder is going to go through there, and it's going to clean it all out nice and squeaky clean. So that's doing all that stuff every time you run it through there. So it's like 4 or 5 steps all in one. It's very easy and quick. I love the bore brush. I definitely will be getting one for 9mm. Anyway, so I'll run this through there, and I kind of do it like I run it through like that, and then the next time I'll run it through like that, and I'll just keep alternating to make sure it's all nice and clean. Then we'll look down inside there, make sure that's all nice and clean, which it is. And then what I like to do at the very end, I'll put a new patch on it, and I'll put some oil on my patch, and I'll run it through there a couple times just so the barrel gets some oil on it, or inside it. So we'll take our oil here, and I'll put some on my patch. I'm going to put a ton of it on there, just enough to coat it. We're going to run it through a couple times anyway, so, and again, I alternate it. There, that's it. So like I said, I wipe it usually all down, get my fingerprints and stuff off of there. So if I'm getting ready to go shooting or whatnot, I'm gonna put some, I'll do it just for the heck of it. I'm not gonna go shooting with this right now, but so Tetra grease, I'm a huge fan of Tetra grease. This stuff stays put. I got a tube of this in my range bag. I got obviously stuff here on my bench. You want to kind of, just like your blue Loctite, it separates over time, so you want to make sure that you get it all mixed up thoroughly. And this will be like a white paste as well. If it comes out all runny like water, then obviously it's not mixed up enough. So I'll just kind of rub that all over the barrel. And then I get the top here and the sides. The top is the most important. That's where the most of your wear on the outside of your barrel from their slide. So I'll lube that up. And I'll just kind of lube up the whole thing there. So then when I do my slide, I'm going to make sure that I put some grease right here. You can actually see this is a relatively new slide. This is the Armory Craft, their new 365 slide. So I've only been shooting a couple times with this. It's probably got 800 rounds through it. But you can definitely see, you know, where all your metal to metal contact is. And right here for probably about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, you can see where it contacts the slide, the barrel. So when you put some grease on that, and then you work your barrel in and out of it, you'll see how slick it is. It makes a huge difference. So I'll just kind of smear that around a little bit. This is what I'm talking about right there, how slick it is. Okay. So if you do that, you're going to notice that the wear on your barrel, it'll be minimal for quite a while until, you know, you can't do nothing about it, but it does help maintain the appearance longer. So then we'll put our recoil spring assembly in there. Just like that. There you go. Our slide is all put back together. We will install it on our grip module. So really quick, this is questions new people have. My takedown lever, if it moved up on you in this process, now it won't go down. It feels like it's binding up. In order to rotate that back down to like the 6:30, 7 o'clock position, we got to push up on our slide release, and then it'll rotate. Okay. So then I usually hold that with my finger just like that so it doesn't pop back. And then you got this safety lever right in here. Okay, it just hinges on a pin. So people that like to get their pistols and shake them for whatever reason and then complain that it makes a clicking sound, it's that safety lever going up and down inside there. Completely normal. Sometimes it gets stuck up like that, and then when we put our slide on, it's going to come in like this, and then it'll contact that safety lever, and it won't go any further. So people sit there and try to muscle it and all that stuff. All you need to do is just make sure that is laying flat, and then this will go on no problem. Okay. So what we're going to do is I put a little bit of lube on my rails here, just a little bit, because I'm going to smear it around. Okay, we'll grab a Q-tip. Just kind of, like I said, I don't lube the heck out of this thing because lube attracts dirt, and then pretty soon you got dirt trapped in the grease and the thing's sliding back and forth, and it probably increases the wear to be honest with you. So I'll just lube that up a little bit like that. If you want to put a little drop of oil down onto your sear and stuff in there, that's fine. Anyway, so I got that held forward. Now I'm going to reinstall, making sure my safety lever is down, which it is. I'll reinstall my slide. Now, it won't go back all the way, and my takedown lever won't rotate up by itself. So this is another common problem. Take it apart and make sure your guide rod is perfectly centered in there. Okay. So now to go back far enough, my takedown lever actually went back into their normal position by itself. There you go. So I'll just wipe off the excess stuff here. And that's that. Let's clean the RDS and then we'll finish up this video. Okay, and just to finish this up, basically clean our sights, our RDS or our iron sights. And what I also do too is I'll take a little bit of oil and I'll put it on the big open areas on the pistol, and then I'll use my finger and kind of smear it around everywhere. Okay, and I'll take my rag and wipe all of that off. And to me, that just kind of puts a extra protective barrier on there, especially from our fingertips, the oils and stuff. It's gonna be sitting in the safe for a while. I don't want it sitting in there with my fingerprints and maybe moisture from my fingerprints on there. Okay, so what I do with the red dot sight here is I got some LCD cleaner. I'll basically just spray some of this on a Q-tip, and then I'll use that on both sides of the window here and all inside there on the frame of it, the chassis of it, anywhere. I'll just kind of work that around, clean that up. Then you can use like a microfiber cloth and get the majority of that off of there. And then I'll use a clean Q-tip and get the rest of it. So in my other video, the 320 video, I touched on it as well with the Romeo 1. Sometimes your dot isn't as clear as it used to be, and if it's not your eyes, then there's an emitter in here, if that's what they call it. It's right here where my Q-tip is, and that basically projects the dot onto the window there. So over time, debris gets in there, oil gets in there from cleaning, carbon, whatever. If you just take your Q-tip and kind of rotate it around in there a couple times, make sure that's all nice and clean inside there. That way that window is nice and clean and it can project the dot onto the other window, which is perfectly clean. So there you go. Then I'll just wipe it down one last time, throw it in the safe, and there you have it. All right, and there you go. That's how I clean my 365. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, if this is something more involved, especially with the striker assembly and removing the fire control unit, if it's something more than you're comfortable with, don't forget SIG does offer that full service package where you can send your pistol to them. They'll completely disassemble it. They'll change out all the springs. They'll ultrasonic clean it. They'll perform any revisions if necessary to your pistol, lube it all back up, put it all back together, and send it back to you. So $85 is what they charge for that package, which isn't a bad price in my opinion, especially when you start price shopping for all these little springs, and the recoil spring assembly is a little bit expensive itself. $55 is pretty much standard shipping, anywhere from $40 to $55 round trip. Like I said, it takes about a week. Secondly, the pin removal tool that I use to remove my pin here, there are two other ones here that I offer on my website, sigguy.com. It's basically 3 different size pins. There's 11 different colors you can choose from. And if you're the type of person that likes to remove every single part and piece on your P320 or your classic P-Series pistols, then these other two here are going to make it a lot easier to reassemble that for you. So again, sigguy.com, and there's a bunch of upgraded aftermarket Armory Craft products on there as well, triggers, mag releases, base pads, all kinds of stuff on there. So just check it out. And then lastly, again, all my subscribers, YouTube subscribers, thank you very much. I do appreciate it very much. If you have not subscribed, there's a subscribe button right down here in the corner. If you could smash that, I'd appreciate it. 2A needs all the help that we can get, and the more that our content is out there, the better. So I'm going to go eat a sandwich. My stomach's been growling this whole time. I'm sorry if that was kind of loud throughout the video. Again, I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you, and have a good day.